Welcome to Movement Minutes with Marc. Today we are going to talk about plantar fasciitis. This is a difficult condition because it can last for several years. I've known a few people and I've worked with some clients that have had pain for several years. And it just seems that the recovery process is just full of ups and downs. You feel good one day and then you feel bad the next day. Maybe for 2 weeks you're feeling hardly any pain and you decide to go for a run and then your foot flares up and you get pain again. That's how the condition progresses. And so I just wanted to provide you with just a few tips to get through your rehab process better. And right now I'm going on a walk. It's a beautiful day in San Diego. And this is exactly what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the benefits of walking, because walking is something that's so easy. And sometimes when we're trying to rehab from these injuries, like plantar fasciitis, we overcomplicate it and we start to think that there's so many different exercises that we need. And sometimes there are, and sometimes there are specific stretches or exercises that you do need because of these impairments that you might have. But for the most part, if you focus on the big picture, you can start to make gradual improvements. So like going for a walk, it's easy to measure how much you're walking. You can use a pedometer or use your phone. We have Apple Watches, we have Fitbits. We have ways of tracking how many steps that we take. So these things are easy to monitor. And if you progress the amount of steps that you're taking every single day by about 10 to 15% each week, then you're able to gradually improve without aggravating your symptoms. Many times, the reason why we're getting pain is because there's an overload to that part of your body. And an overload means that you're just putting too much stress onto it in a short period of time. And you're not allowing the body to do its job. The body will do its job. It wants to heal itself. It's very efficient. You have an inflammatory system, you have an immune system, you have so many different biological processes that are occurring within the cells of your body that are helping your tissue to heal. And so you want to build up a better tolerance to activity. And if you can just measure how much you're walking each day, write it down in a journal, get out a notepad, write down the number of steps that you're taking per day, and try to increase it by 10 to 15% each week. It's a simple way for you to calculate how much activity that you're doing every day. And then you want to keep track of your pain levels. So from a scale of 1 to 10, also write down your level of pain before, during, and after you go for a walk. And then you can take note of how you feel, or how much pain that you feel before you go to bed, and how much pain you feel when you wake up in the morning, because that's often what happens with plantar fasciitis. Most people have pain when they take those first few steps in the morning. And so you want to see how your body and your foot responds to the activity that you're doing. So if you go for a 2-mile walk, and then you wake up the next morning and you have 5 out of 10 pain, but yesterday you had 2 out of 10 pain, then there's a big 3-point increase in your pain intensity. That is not good. You don't want your level of pain to increase several hours after doing your activity. You want to make sure that you're just doing what your body can tolerate. And just a great way to do that is to journal your level of pain and to keep track of how many steps that you're taking, because walking is simple. You don't have to think about it. You could just enjoy it. You can get outside, you can get some sun, and you're going to be getting so many other extra benefits as well that are going to allow your body to heal. And that's what it's all about. It's about putting your body in a good environment for healing, and internally as well, not just externally, although that's important as well, but having a good internal environment for healing is going to set you up for success. Because with something like plantar fasciitis, it's not just related to the tissue that's injured. Sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes it has to do with a biological process that's occurring. And for example, chronic pain, there's a lot of research showing that chronic pain is related to these poor adaptations or maladaptive changes that occur in our brain. And so our brain starts to perceive that these different stimuli are painful when they may not be. Or you may have a very, very poor tolerance to certain movements or activities because you perceive these movements as a threat. So these are things that could increase your perception of pain. Pain is a perception. And so what we can do is we can train our brains by exposing ourselves to these different stimuli that were painful, and then you start to learn that they're not as painful. And so that's one way that you get your brain to start to not perceive pain as much. And then something else that you can do is you can start to monitor the foods that you eat as well, because if you start eating processed foods or foods that are high in sugar, sometimes we call those inflammatory foods. These are foods that can potentially increase inflammation in your body. And if you start to do that, then you might notice an increase in pain. So that would also be good to write down. If you start to eat certain types of foods and you notice more pain on the bottom of your foot, then make note of that, because in many cases that happens. And I can't tell you how many times that somebody's come to me and said that they do feel better when they cut out certain foods, or they feel better when they're eating healthier. So that's because some of these foods can increase the level of systemic inflammation in the body, and that could heighten our perception of pain. There's also research that links elevated inflammation to chronic pain. They're often associated with one another. And so that's why I'm a big proponent of curcumin, which is the active ingredient that's in turmeric. Curcumin is an anti-inflammatory compound, and it has a lot of properties that help your body to regulate inflammation better. Inflammation is not a bad thing. We need some inflammation. So when we take ibuprofen or these prescription anti-inflammatories, sometimes you're cutting out too much inflammation, and they're acting strongly for a short period of time. If you take, for example, if you're in pain and you take ibuprofen, you might feel better in the next couple hours. And I know that's great for many people. You want to feel pain relief, but that reduces so much inflammation in such a short period of time that it's not really natural. Your body doesn't really do that. You need something that's more slower acting and something that could reduce inflammation over a longer period of time. And if you're experiencing pain day in and day out for many weeks or months, then you often need to control that long-term inflammation. You have a heightened level of systemic inflammation. Just taking ibuprofen, for the benefit that you get from taking ibuprofen is only going to last a couple hours, but what's going to happen once it wears off? You're going to need to take it again. And that long-term use is what leads to the problem. It's not necessarily bad to just take it here and there, but when you start to take it over many months, then the cumulative effect that has on your body can be significant. And there's a lot of studies. I'm not going to get into all the negative side effects of the long-term use of ibuprofen, but it is a major problem. And so I bring it up right now because plantar fasciitis can take such a long time to heal, and a lot of times people are seeking all these different pharmaceutical interventions to reduce their pain. So I just want to say that if you want to dive into the research a little bit more on curcumin, then you can head over to our learning center at activeatoms.com to read some of the articles in which we discuss how it helps. Just understanding how curcumin can help and the type of dose that you need to get benefits can really just open up the door for you and open up your mind to the possibilities that something like that can potentially replace ibuprofen. And I know so many people that are taking Active Atoms turmeric, they feel better. They notice that there's a reduction in pain. And it's so amazing to hear. And so I want more people to know about it, and that's why I'm so passionate and fired up about it, because plantar fasciitis is one of those conditions that it can help with a lot because of that, because of the duration of time that it takes to recover from plantar fasciitis.